My name is Sally. The slam of the door still echoes in my ears, shaking me back to the present from the storm of emotions that just unfolded. Cormac, my older brother, has just stormed out of the house, leaving behind a tense silence and a cloud of revelations. It all started at that fateful dinner in my parents', Helen and George's, cozy dining room. The aroma of roasted turkey and sage filled the air, a comforting scent that usually signified a warm and happy gathering. Helen, who had recently undergone knee surgery, was seated at the head of the table, her canvas tote hanging neatly on the back of her chair. George was busy carving the turkey, the sound of the knife against the cutting board filling the air with a rhythmic hum. My cousin Lily was in the corner, snapping candid photos of the family like she always did. And my boyfriend, Ethan, was sitting beside me, his hand gently squeezing mine under the table. For the first half hour, the dinner was just like any other family meal. We talked, laughed, and shared stories. George teased me about my love for reading mystery novels, and Helen kept urging us to have more food. I thought, for once, this dinner would be a peaceful and enjoyable one. But then, Cormac pushed back his chair. The screech of the chair legs against the hardwood floor cut through the conversation like a knife. He stood up tall, his eyes fixed on me with a cold determination. "You stole my wallet," he said in a sharp voice that silenced the room immediately. At first, I thought he was joking. I even let out a nervous laugh. But the look on his face was anything but joking. He walked over to the canvas tote beside my chair and plunged his hand inside. To my horror, he pulled out his black leather wallet and held it up triumphantly, as if he had just uncovered a great crime. Gasps filled the room. George froze with the carving knife in his hand, and Helen's eyes widened in shock. I felt the weight of everyone's gazes on me, and I could feel the heat rising to my cheeks. "I didn't take it," I stammered, my voice catching in my throat. But Cormac just sneered at me and waved the wallet in the air. That's when I noticed the absurdity of the situation. The tote wasn't mine, it was Helen's. She had been sitting there all evening, barely moving because of her knee. She hadn't even touched the tote since she sat down. A burst of laughter escaped from me, a mix of disbelief and anger. "Interesting," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "Cormac, when exactly did I bring a tote to this dinner? And when did Mom stand up and move hers?" My words seemed to hit him like a punch. His smirk faltered for a moment, and I could see the panic in his eyes. George's eyes narrowed as he started to piece things together, and Helen instinctively touched the tote, her hand trembling. I then turned to Lily. "Lily, you've been taking pictures all evening. Can you check the clips? Maybe they'll show the truth." Lily blinked in surprise but then nodded. She quickly scrolled through the photos on her phone. After a few seconds, her eyes widened. "Play it," I told her. On the small screen of her phone, we saw Cormac crouching down near Helen's chair, pretending to adjust the leg. His hand slipped into the tote, and he placed something dark inside before standing up with that fake smile on his face. The air in the room changed. George's face hardened with anger. "That explains it," he muttered. "I thought I misplaced some money from my wallet last week." Helen's voice was shaky as she said, "He offered to carry this for me earlier, saying it looked heavy. I didn't think. I thought about all the times Cormac had borrowed money and never paid it back, all the lies he had told, and all the times the family had covered for him. Now, the truth was finally out." Cormac shifted in his seat, looking around the table desperately for someone to defend him. But no one said a word. Ethan reached over and took my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Cormac finally broke the silence with a bitter laugh. "So what if I moved the wallet? You've all always thought Sally was the good one, and I'm the screw-up. Well, now you have your proof." He then started to rant, accusing me of trying to take control of the family's finances ever since Helen had asked me to help with some important documents. These included a durable power of attorney, healthcare directives, and details about a rental property. George admitted that he had co-signed one of Cormac's loans years ago, which had gone bad, and he had been struggling with the debt ever since. Helen said firmly that the papers needed to be signed to bring some stability to the family and to prevent any more chaos. Cormac's bravado started to fade. His shoulders slumped, and for a moment, he looked like a lost child. But then, his anger flared up again. He stood up abruptly and said, "You'll regret this." With that, he grabbed his jacket and the wallet, and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. The silence that followed was heavy. Helen let out a long sigh, as if she had been holding her breath for years. George rubbed his forehead, looking tired and relieved at the same time. Ethan's hand was still holding mine, a steady presence in the midst of the chaos. Weeks passed after that night. Helen spent her days at the physical therapy center, working hard to regain her strength. I visited her during my lunch breaks, and sometimes I would find George there, reading the newspaper. In the evenings, I would take walks along the river, enjoying the peace and quiet. The paperwork was completed, and everything was in order. Transparency became the new norm in our family. Cormac's name would still pop up on my phone from time to time. At first, his messages were full of anger and blame, but then they gradually turned into half-hearted apologies before finally going silent. I didn't block him. I knew that love could exist even with distance. Sundays at the old dining table became lighter. Helen would serve delicious stew with a smile, George would tell funny jokes about his failed attempts at solving the crossword, and Lily's camera would click away, capturing the happy moments. Ethan would sit beside me, and I would feel a sense of peace and stability that I hadn't felt in a long time. As I sat there, looking around at my family, I realized that we had survived a storm. We had chosen clarity over illusion, and in doing so, we had built a new legacy, one that was based on honesty and trust, not on the weight of hidden debts and lies.